Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another Project Blue live chat. Today's guest is Becerra. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome, and we're glad you could join us. We'll be doing a Q&A following her presentation, so please feel free to ask any questions you might have in the Q&A function in the chat below. Our guest today, Becerra, is the president of the Marine Mammal Care Center. Today's topic is how does pollution affect our oceans? A deep dive into trash, animal entanglement, and what you can do about it. She's coming to you live from her Marine Mammal Care Center in San Pedro, where if you can hear in the background, some real live marine mammals in the background. So Amber, thank you for joining us, and I'm just gonna turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacob. And thank you to the AltaSea team for inviting us to do this. This is super exciting. And I did notice that you laughed for a minute because you heard the barks of one of our sea lion patients in the background. I just always think it's a fun opportunity to be able to show people behind the scenes exactly what we're doing. And because of the pandemic, we've been closed to the public. So today you get to see some of our patients and you'll definitely hear them in the background. It's often challenging for me to even think straight with all the barking that goes on, but bear with us. It should be kind of a fun, unique experience here. So yes, we're the Marine Mammal Care Center Los Angeles. We are the only 365, 24/7 marine mammal rehabilitation center in Los Angeles County. And most of the patients that we see are injured seals and sea lions. They wash up on our beaches with a variety of different injuries. And our mission is to conduct research on these animals, to rehabilitate them and release them back out into the wild. We work together with an organization called Marine Animal Rescue, and they're the ones that actually do the rescues on the beaches. So if you see an animal that looks sick or injured, don't go near it. The important thing to do is to give a call to this organization by dialing 1-800-39-WHALE. This will go directly to Marine Animal Rescue, and they go out and they are very well trained. Peter Wellerstein has been doing this for a very long time, and you can see in the image there that he's very well trained in capturing these animals in a very safe way and bringing them here to the center for rehabilitation. They're an integral part of the work that we do here at the center. We just couldn't do it without them. I'll talk to you a little bit about our patients and get a tiny bit specific into the species that we see here. So California sea lions are the patients that we see the most of. You can see here they're very social, very sweet, cuddly, giving each other kisses in these pictures. We like to call them ocean puppies. They just basically, remind me of your puppies at home. They like to roughhouse, they like to cuddle with each other. And sometimes it's hard to not want to cuddle up with them or, to be affectionate, but these are wild animals and we want to treat them that way so that when they go back out into the wild, they're not attracted to humans in any way. They were severely impacted by an unusual mortality event that we had back from 2013 to 2016. Basically, we had some warming waters, which caused them to have difficulty starvation-wise, and many of them came into us malnourished and pups that were separated from their mothers. And we lost a good portion of the sea lion population due to that unusual mortality event. The next type of patients that we see are northern elephant seals. These are my absolute favorite patients. You just look into those eyeballs and it warms your heart. They're a little different than sea lions in that seals, particularly elephant seals, they're more loners. They're not as social, although you see all of them here sort of congregating together, but they're not quite as social and sort of affable as the sea lions are, but they are just as cute as ever. And I love when we get these patients, and we just released our last one, so we don't have any for you to see today, but we do have a lot of sea lions that I'll take you through to see in a minute. Next, we have the Pacific harbor seals, which are a type of seal and just also very beautiful animals, very sweet. And these are like the Zen animals that we see here. They just kind of chill in the pool. They like to float with their eyes closed and just hang out. And it's very relaxing to watch these animals in their natural environment. And so something kind of exciting that we do have that is pretty rare is we have a northern fur seal here. We also see Guadalupe fur seals. These are more rare, and we don't commonly see them in our center, but we do have one patient. It's a pup you're going to get to see a little bit later. Very beautiful. And these animals are unfortunately hunted for their beautiful fur, which is very very tragic and can lead to their populations declining rapidly. So we have various reasons for hospitalization that we see these animals for, various environmental conditions, like I described, malnutrition. We do see patients that come in with shark bites. We have harmful algal blooms that occur, parasites and infections. But sort of what I want to focus on today and what the topic is of this is something that's not quite as common as some of those other reasons for hospitalization. But to me, it's a little bit more distressing because it involves human activity. So we see entanglement in fishing gear, ingestion or injury from ocean trash, as well as gunshot wounds. And if you can see here in this picture, this is one of our very recent patients. He was actually just released, so the story has a happy ending. And I apologize for sort of the gore of these images, but I do think it's really important for people to be able to see the reality of what is happening out there and what comes into us. So this is a gill net that's entangled around this patient's neck. His name is Freedom. We named him when he was released on election day. He's a very special patient. A lot of these patients with these kind of injuries don't make it, unfortunately, and this guy did. He came into us with this, not this exact netting, but something very similar to this, wrapped around his neck. And this is an injury that we unfortunately see all too often. Sea lions in particular, they, like I said, are very playful species, and they like to play with things that they find in their environment. So I think the reason possibly that we end up seeing more sea lion entanglements is because they get in there, they think that the net is something to play with, they're toying around with it, and then they get entangled in these discarded fishing nets, which is really tragic. So you can see that big laceration around Freedom's neck is, just from the line here getting wrapped and tightening, and it causes that deep of a wound. And what can happen if they don't come into us is it can become infected, and that can be a fatal injury. So he came into us with, what you can see here is a pretty deep wound. He was treated, and the gill net was removed from his neck, but he has, and you can check out our Instagram if you want to see some of his recovery pictures, and his sort of Freedom release video is on our Instagram too, at Marine Mammal Care. He does still have, actually I might have no, I don't think I have a picture of it. He does still have a wound. There's going to be a big gap there because he has a band of scar tissue that's left behind from that entanglement. So if you were just to see him right now on the beach, you might think he actually, has an injury, but it has healed and it is scar tissue. And he was a candidate for surgery that we perform here. We have a veterinarian surgeon, Dr. Tammy DaCosta Gomez, who has come in with our hospital director, Dr. Palmer, and performed this surgery where they actually remove the scar tissue and then essentially, re-stitch the wound so that there isn't so much restriction with all that huge band of scar tissue, and then they can regain some mobility in their neck. The problem with Freedom was that we did a test run under anesthesia, and unfortunately he was not stable under anesthesia, and Dr. Palmer felt that it was too risky of a surgery to perform that because it could end up resulting in death. So she opted not to perform the surgery and just release Freedom anyways, and hope for the best, but he will have a permanent deformity. And as he grows older, he's a yearling, but as he grows to a bigger size like this animal that you can see over here. This is an adult male sea lion in our pen hive. He's going to get a lot bigger than what you see in this picture. And when that happens, it's going to be hard for that scar tissue. It doesn't grow with them. So he will have a permanent deformity that will affect his mobility and his ability to hunt. So I think it is important to note that even though we're able to recover these animals and treat them and release them back into the wild, that this type of fishing gear is causing a permanent injury to these animals. And again, like I said, some of them unfortunately don't actually make it, or they're entangled out there in the wild and they can't escape, or they don't make their way to us. So the next type of injury that we see from human activity that is really kind of jarring is the ingestion of ocean trash and plastic. So this, what you're seeing right here, are recovered stomach contents. These are actual real life contents of our patient's stomachs that were unfortunately recovered during a necropsy, which is the animal version of an autopsy. When the animal doesn't make it, we do research on that animal, and Dr. Palmer is able to assess oftentimes what the cause of death was. So you can see all the various plastic and items that were ingested by these animals into their stomachs and trapped in their digestive system. There's also been cases of large whales that have washed up on the beach and have been found dead on the beach or dying. And recently there was a whale, I believe in Scotland, that washed up on the beach, and they did a necropsy and they discovered 200 pounds of trash in the stomach of that whale. So, this is a very serious problem, and it's something that we see and we can actually, tangibly recognize that this is happening to these animals from the trash that's out into the ocean. And there's many of them that aren't coming to us because they just don't make it and they pass out into the wild. I have a picture here of an entangled whale. So, as I was describing, whales watching up on the beaches with trash in their stomachs, and then also entanglement is a big issue for all types of marine animals, not just our seals and sea lions. This, I believe, is a piece of packaging that this whale was entangled in, and he was actually freed from this, which is amazing when we're able to do that. I believe it was Noah that disentangled this animal, but I included this particular photo because I was just recently diving down in Mexico, and we were actually shark diving, and we had a couple of humpback whales that swam right underneath us, and it was absolutely the most incredible experience of my life. These are protected animals, so not something you ever would want to seek out, and it was just one of these amazing fortuitous events, and just seeing this massive, magnificent creature moving, so slowly underneath you in their ocean home. It was incredibly inspiring to me, and just, reinvigorated my desire to fight for these animals and to try to be the voice for them and speak up for them, so that we can take care of them. It's really tragic that human activity is causing the entanglements and deaths of these animals. And I think we need to always just pause and stop and realize that the ocean is their home and where they live, and we need to keep it as free and clear and safe for them as possible. So this is kind of a shocking statistic. There are 5 trillion pieces of plastic in our oceans. And if you see this picture here, this was provided to us by one of our partners, Paddle Out Plastic, which is a really amazing organization that goes out into the ocean and recovers this trash and then turns it into art. And makes art out of the ocean trash as a way to spread, awareness about this problem, and to make something beautiful out of something that's really pretty horribly tragic. But when you just think about those numbers, 5 trillion pieces of plastic, it's pretty devastating. And I'm sure everyone has heard, the statistic, more plastic than fish is slated for 2050. And, you know, I really hope that we can all band together and make sure that that doesn't become a reality. And places like Paddle Out Plastic, other organizations like Pluck Plastic, For Oceans are great ones to follow and keep your eye on and to support, because they're doing wonderful work to try to get these plastic that are already in our oceans out. Those kinds of statistics are just really distressing to me. And when you think about the fact that 50 years ago, there was basically no plastic in our ocean. And now there's 5 trillion pieces of plastic. And, you know, in 2050, we're looking at more plastic than fish. It's amazing how rapidly things can change. And I like to believe that, that things can rapidly change in the other direction too. So, you know, it's a grim situation, but it's not one that with a lot of activism and coming together, we are helpless to change. So here, I'm going to show you some photos. This one, we've got a piece of plastic around the lower jaw that actually had to be surgically removed from that patient, and just some other sort of distressing images with the seal who has the plastic jar stuck on its face. These are very real injuries that we're seeing. There's, you know, plastic bags, ingestion, and entanglement that if we're seeing some of this come to us, it means that it's happening out there exponentially in ways that we're not seeing, because the ocean is so incredibly vast. So another statistic that I'd like to share with people that's also very distressing to me is that over 1 million marine animals die every year from ocean plastic. That is a statistic, that's a number that, you know, makes my stomach turn. 1 million marine animals every single year. It's very shocking. I think this is a problem that a lot of people are not even aware of. And without getting out there and doing the research and really exposing yourself to this information, I think it's something that we just don't think that deeply about. And, you know, I think we really need to stop and make a change. I don't think it's acceptable that animals are dying from something that humans have created. And, you know, we need to rethink that and find ways to stop things. So here again, we've got another image from Paddle Out Plastic, just some of the things that they're picking up in the ocean. The earth cannot digest plastic, neither can marine life, as is demonstrated by these contents that we're pulling from their stomachs, and neither can we. And I think that that's something to really think about, that I think we can obviously all understand this is affecting our animals, it's affecting the ocean ecosystem in a deep way, but what does that mean for us as human beings? For those of us that do consume fish, the fish are eating these plastics, either pieces of them, or when they break down into microplastics, the fish are consuming them, and we're finding them in the fish's stomachs. And a lot of scientists believe that that's how some of our animals are getting plastics in their stomachs, is that that's their prey source. So they're then eating the fish, and the fish has the plastic in their stomach. But if you think about the fact that we're eating fish too, many of us, you know, that's a scary prospect. We're consuming something that's largely made up of chemicals, and it remains to be seen whether our bodies are capable of processing that. And as we can see by the various marine animals that we study, it's looking like they're having a very difficult time processing those types of plastics. So I think the important thing to start thinking about is, you know, where is all this going to go if there isn't anywhere for it to go, which seems to be the reality at this point. And so it's ending up in our oceans. We kind of need to work backwards from that. We need to find alternative sources of packaging and things that are going to be something that our earth can digest and that we can digest. So I think that's the important thing to keep in mind there. Here's another image from Paddle Out Plastic. This just kind of shows the work that they do. You can see, you know, what's out there in our oceans that they're collecting. and the amount of plastic that they're getting. And I can speak personally, we do a beach cleanup at Marine Mammal Care Center with our volunteers once a month, and we like to go down to White Point Beach, which is the local beach where we release our animals. And especially since the pandemic and the increasing use of PPE, which people feel acceptable discarding onto the ground, I'm not sure why. I have been out there picking up a record number of trash items, and a lot of it is PPE, a lot of it is latex gloves, a lot of it is non-reusable masks. It's super important that if you do use those disposable masks, that at least you cut the side pieces that go around your ear, because that's an entanglement problem. But I really would like to encourage people to, reusable masks is something that's available out there. I actually formed my own company called Cover for a Cause, and a percentage of the proceeds goes toward the Marine Mammal Care Center. These are cute, fun, reusable masks, and it's a way to save the environment and stay safe at the same time. But this is going to become an absolutely enormous problem if we keep going on the way we are and discarding these things. And what's interesting is that it's not that you're throwing them directly into the ocean, so you don't feel like you're contributing to that problem, but just throwing something, in a parking lot, a lot of it the trash ends up going to the watershed and getting down into the ocean, unfortunately. So the beaches I've noticed lately are just full of trash because of stay-at-home orders locally. Beach cleanups are harder to do. We can't get a big group down there to do the beach cleanups, so the trash has just been majorly piling up. And images like this are not uncommon, and it's something that I see all the time. And these are the areas where we are releasing our animals, so it can be very dangerous for them if there's plastic, and oftentimes there's broken glass down there, and this discarded PPE, things that they could get entangled in on their way out. We just have another image here of Freedom in his gill net, and I believe that's showing, oh, I knew I had it in there, that he had some recovery there. Here is the actual gill net, which I showed you an image of. You can see it close up. Something that is really interesting is that it really honestly takes only a single piece of fishing line. You can see how thin that is. It doesn't even have to be a whole net. We sometimes get entanglements with a single piece of fishing line around the neck, and it essentially strangles the patient. So something that small, and this type of stuff is all over our oceans. Unfortunately, it makes up a huge part of the plastics that are in our oceans. You can see here another animal that's entangled in a different type of netting. And these are the various different type of fishing practices that unfortunately result in these types of injuries. You can see the gill net here. Now, I am always an advocate of sustainability, and I don't like to come out and say, don't eat fish anymore. Obviously, to the extent that you can reduce your consumption, that's always going to be helpful. But I think it's important for us to, to live in a space where we're acting sustainably and we're making good choices rather than just, saying you need to eliminate it altogether. That's not realistic for everyone's lives. So your choices matter. And if you source your seafood appropriately, which I can highly recommend the Seafood Watch app, you can download that on your phone, and that is going to help you make sustainable choices. And actually, I found personally, for me, that Whole Foods actually has an amazing department, and they have very high standards, and you can go in there and you can speak with the staff in there, and they will actually tell you, what's the most sustainably sourced seafood and meat. And it makes a huge difference because they know, and they have certain standards and restrictions. They know which companies are actually using these practices and which ones are, still using illegal fishing gear and not. And so I think it's, put your money where your mind is, put your money into the products that you believe in, and it will actually make a huge difference. And I actually think that's going to be the biggest source of change is that we support these companies that are doing the right thing and that are sustainably sourcing their seafood. And locally here in San Pedro, we're a big fishing community as well. So we have all the respect in the world for fishermen that are doing things right. And frankly, we couldn't even run our facility without fish because, you know, we buy our fish from a local fisherman because we have to feed these animals fish. So if there weren't fishermen, we wouldn't even be able to do the great work that we're doing. So it's not always about just, you know, not buying it at all. It's about finding the places to source it that are doing the right thing in a really safe way. So this is an image that I think we've probably all seen. We've got a sea turtle with a straw being extracted from its nasal cavity. And I like to tell people about Jackie Nunez, who founded The Last Plastic Straw. I think she's a great example of an activist that just came up with a very simple concept, which is just start to refuse plastic straws. And it's something that everyone can do. It's something we can all get on board with. And I think it's inspiring for the way that one person and their idea can make a big difference. And the idea is you go into your restaurant, you refuse a plastic straw, you say no straw, and you let them know the reason why, because you know you want to protect the environment and these animals that are dying and being injured from these plastic straws, and sea turtles in particular are very highly affected by straws. So that just, you know, when you let a company know that you don't want a plastic straw and you make that decision, and you know, you support them perhaps moving on to a more sustainable, compostable alternative, which is something else I want to show you. We have a new partnership with this company called Straw Code. And these are biodegradable, compostable, creature safe. They're made in Vietnam, and they're made out of a grass, actually. And they give a percentage of their proceeds to us at the Marine Mammal Care Center. This is a new company, but this is so cool. So this is you know, it functions like a normal straw, but it's actually made out of grass. And, you know, to the extent that all of our local restaurants can switch over to something like this, it's an incredible sustainable alternative. And they're also supporting our center with a portion of the proceeds. That's another way, you know, to make sure that you're putting your money where your mind is you're actually going out and finding places that do support, you know, different various ocean related nonprofits and whatnot. So this is an example of how the technology is out there. There's all sorts of hemp packaging and hemp alternatives to these single-use plastics. It's there. It's just that it's highly expensive to transition over to these systems. So it's something that we're all going to have to make a big leap toward, and it's going to be uncomfortable for a while. But you know, going back to this concept of the earth not being able to digest plastic, we need to move to something that is digestible. I'm going to show you here. You just, you know, see overflowing trash cans, again, local images. Well, the trash on our streets, and I think this is something that I didn't really even think about until recently in the last year when I started getting involved with the Marine Mammal Care Center and really researching some of this stuff. You think that, again, if you're not putting your trash into the ocean, it's not getting there. But again, it goes into the storm drains, goes into the watershed, and it gets dumped out into the ocean. So it's not only important to do beach cleanups where the trash is already got, but it's super important to properly dispose of everything, not be littering, and just to also understand that the reduction of trash and plastics needs to start in the home and in the commercial environment. It can't be something that we wait to deal with the problem until it gets into the ocean, or we try to capture it before it goes into the ocean. It's going to get there. So we need to make sure what does get there eventually is something that's going to biodegrade. And right now, all the plastics that are out there that have ever been produced have not biodegraded. They may have broke down in some way, but they've turned into microplastics. And so it's all out there existing one way or another. And it's a very serious serious thing that we need to work on. I just have another picture here. Beach cleanups as a way that you can get involved in something you can do, and also, you know, obviously picking up litter and not littering, picking up any PPE that you might run across. I like to keep just a bucket in my car, so that, because you might not be just even doing a beach cleanup, but you might be somewhere and you see a bunch of trash and stop, fill up the bucket, and you know, you really did a great thing. So something I hear a lot is recycling. And I remember when I was younger, actually, I think I was in elementary school, and some of you might remember this song, reuse, reduce, and recycle. And, you know, we all got up in front of the class and did a little presentation, and I'll always have that tune stuck in my head. And, you know, back then it was recycling felt like this really amazing thing we're going to be able to do with all these single-use plastic bottles, and it wasn't going to be a huge problem because it was just going to get recycled and we're actually doing something great for the environment. Well, we've now figured out that actually only 9% of what we're recycling ever actually gets recycled, which is, to me, an absolutely horrifying statistic. So recycling is not going to be enough to solve the plastics crisis. And there's actually a major issue with trash. Where do we dispose of all of this stuff that isn't getting recycled? So again, I think the key is going to the source, and we need to move toward products like this. We need to move toward sustainable, compostable, biodegradable products that replace the plastics that we've gotten so addicted to. But what's really, really critical here is that source reduction, going to the very tippy top, is a necessary thing. And it's not always about what you or I can do as an individual. I think that's been sort of the dialogue that's been going on, and it's been pushed on us, again, since I was in elementary school. This is what you can do: reuse, reduce, and recycle, and you can make a difference, and it's all about you as the individual consumer. Well, I think that's a great mentality, and I do think people can make a big difference themselves, and we should all try and do that as much as we possibly can. We need to think even bigger than that. So we need to go to the source, which is big plastics, and we need to put pressure on them through regulation to get them to change their ways. Basically, that's the only way that this plastic crisis is going to be resolved. And again, it's uncomfortable and it's going to be difficult. Here at the Marine Mammal Care Center, we were recently working with Oceana and Heal the Bay, and we were trying to get a very important bill, Senate Bill 54, passed through the California legislature, which would have really reduced single-use plastics over the next 20 years here in California. We were making all sorts of different calls to our local assembly members, hoping that we would be able to get this bill passed. Unfortunately, it did not pass. It died on the assembly floor because there were 4 needed votes and 4 assembly members that abstained from the vote. So we were very, very close to getting that through. But that was just a great example of how you can be an activist, you know, contacting your local assembly members, speak at your city council meetings, speak up. I wear this bracelet that says "Be Their Voice." I don't know if you can see that or if it's backwards for you, but this is kind of my message to myself, my sort of personal mantra, is that these animals can't speak for themselves. So we have to be their voice. We have to speak up for them. We have to be their advocate. And there are many ways that you can do that. And by putting pressure on your legislators, you really do have a voice, and you really can make a big difference. And we did get very close to passing that legislation, and I'm not giving up hope that we will be able to pass some landmark legislation. But I do believe that regulation of the plastics industry is going to be where this needs to start. Education is also so important. So you listen to this, share this messaging with your friends and family members. And when you sit down for Thanksgiving dinner with your family, share these ideas with them. These are things that people might not think about because it's easy to just sort of put it in the back of your mind. But the more we can talk about it and be open with each other and make sustainable sourcing a dinner time conversation, the better off we'll be. And just, rethinking our choices that we're making whether it's, you know, not using takeout, using reusable items, you know, bringing your reusable bags to the grocery store so that you're not using extra plastic. Balloons is obviously a huge hazard for marine animals. I like to tell people to, you know, try to stay away from balloons and find another way to celebrate. They're very dangerous for marine animals. All these things that you can do to refuse single-use plastics and to refuse these types of packaging. That's sort of where the emphasis needs to be now, is on first refusal. If we can't refuse, then we, you know, reduce our use. We reuse items that as we can, reusable. We have many reusable items for sale in our gift shop. And then only then, at the very end, do we go toward recycling, because it's just not a highly effective way of solving the problem. So I think I have one little special thing for you that's totally unrelated to ocean plastics, but just a little happy moment. This is a release out on the Channel Islands of some babies that we rehabilitated. And you'll see two of those little stinkers just jump right in, happy as a clam. And this guy's like, I don't know. If you look at his back, he does have a tracking device there on his back. And we were able to, there he goes, woo, freedom. So we were able to track that animal and see where they went. And they were just all over the Channel Islands and swimming everywhere, which is really amazing. We just do such incredible work here at the Marine Mammal Care Center, and we do see, unfortunately, too often these types of injuries when it's already too late, and we try to do our best to take care of them and rehabilitate them, get them released back into the wild where they belong. But we definitely need to work really hard as well, all of us coming together, organizations like AltaSea, to make a difference and to try to prevent our human activity from affecting these animals. So I'm going to give you all a fun little tour of the center now. You can take a look there at, these are the animals in our pen 6. Right now we just have Bjorn in there swimming in the pool. He's one of our non-releasable animals that was unfortunately shot in the head. We're not sure exactly why. Sometimes this does happen because fishermen can see them as competition for food, or there are people out there that just see these animals as a nuisance, which I think is really absolutely tragic. But we really love this sweet boy, and we're hoping to find him a permanent home in a zoo or an aquarium, because he won't be able to be released back to the wild due to his blindness, because he won't be able to hunt on his own. And there are a couple little pups there just relaxing, cuddling up and enjoying the sunshine. If we move over here, this is pen 5. So these two pens are basically our recovery pens. This is when the animals are getting close to being released and they're being evaluated by Dr. Palmer to see if they're ready to go back out into the wild. They need to be able to compete for food. They need to be socializing well with their counterparts. This particular animal is an adult male sea lion, and he is actually ready to go back into the wild. And the only reason that he's not back into the wild is because he is very large and very difficult to get into a crate to take him back out. So he's actually going to have to be tranquilized to get him into a crate, to get him down back into the water out of the ocean. But he's very vocal, very sort of typical adult male, large sea lion. And he's ready for his release any day now. Okay. I know I told you about this little northern blue seal. These are the special patients. I don't know if you'll be able to see how absolutely darling and tiny this little pup is, but oh, it looks like she's waking up for us, and maybe I'm gonna swim over here. But yeah, these are really, really special patients. We're actually probably going to transfer this animal because we don't have any other of her species here, and they don't really get along very well with the sea lions. So we're probably going to transfer her to a local facility where she would have some other animals of her same species that she can be released with. But yeah, this is kind of a special treat because we don't get them in very often, maybe just a couple a year. So enjoy her swimming there in a recovery pool. So you'll see these pens on this side are more of the critical care pens. So when they first come into us, they need individualized treatment and care, and oftentimes separation from other animals. And they need to have a separate pen to be evaluated and properly treated. We have another adult here. Looks like an adult male. And we have a couple adult males that Marine Animal Rescue, which I was telling you about earlier, brought into us just with acting lethargic on the beach, and they were brought here, and we haven't actually quite figured out what's going on with them. So we're just trying to monitor them and take care of them, keep them well, and get them fed, and hopefully they will bounce back. We have another couple of sea lion pups here. And if you see in the background in the hallway over there, I'll take you over there actually. We've got quite a few pups right now that are doing an enrichment, which is really pretty fun. So we open up the hallway and we've got some rocks in there that they get to play with. They just kind of run around and get to socialize with each other, plop on top of each other, and you see we got the water running in here so that they get nice and slippery. And Dr. Palmer brings in things like these beach rocks, and we've got a little pool for them, and she brings in kelp. They've been separated from their mothers and they're very young, and they often don't have very much time in a natural ocean environment. And so she brings in things like kelp and tries to create somewhat of an enrichment experience so they get the feeling of some of these things for when they're released back into the wild and they're comfortable with them. So that, and this is our hospital area. It looks like they're triaging an animal right now, so we're gonna step away and stay out of their way. I don't know, Jacob, if we want to move to taking some questions at this point, if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, there are a couple in here. This is awesome, though. It's a good tour.
Yeah, I know. Well, tell me if you want to see, if everyone wants to see more seals and sea lions, then we can do that too.
Yeah, so a couple questions that personally I had. Could you just take us through the process while you're walking around of like from call to release? What goes on in the center? What do you guys do with the patients?
Yeah, so like I said, we have Marine Animal Rescue that brings the animals into us. So we don't actually get the actual call for the animals stranded on the beach. When we get the call, it's already the animal's already been captured off of the beach and is being brought into our facility. And it comes in, it gets, immediately goes into triage, goes into our dry pens, which is the other side of the facility I didn't take you to, because Dr. Palmer, it looks like, has a patient that just came in right now, and they're working on that animal. And I just like to be very respectful of her space, because we are a very small facility. There isn't actually anywhere that they're able to go and sort of privately take care of these patients, which is important that she's not being disturbed and she can really focus, and also just for safety reasons. But so she's in there right now, and that's actually kind of, you know, what it would look like. She's in there with the animal, diagnosing it, oftentimes doing blood work to immediately assess. You know, you can take a look at the blood work and usually tell if, you know, we've got kidney issues or whatnot. We are testing for things like parasites, and if there's a wound, trying to see if there's an infection or not. And then she's going to prescribe whatever medication is necessary for that animal, and they will either stay in a dry area if they have a wound, for example, that needs to get treatment. They'll stay in a dry area, or if they're doing better, they can get moved into one of these pens that has a pool. And then our husbandry staff takes over, and the husbandry staff is really more responsible for the sort of animal care aspects, like making sure that they're getting, you know, proper feeding and care and things like that. And they sort of move through the pens in the different stages of their recovery, and as they seem to be gaining weight better and whatnot, you know, Dr. Plummer has a chart like a patient. Like if you go into your own doctor's office, you have your chart, and she's tracking what they're eating, how they're responding to medication, how much weight they're gaining, and things like that. And as it looks like they're eating a lot more and they're gaining weight, then they get moved up into pens 5 and 6, and then she evaluates whether they're ready for release. Like this big guy that we're having trouble with getting him out, they then need to be put into a crate, and which goes into our truck, and we haul it down to White Point Beach and open those gates, and you can never know whether they're going to go flying right out back to their wild ocean home, or a lot of times we have them just kind of sitting there like, hey, I've been getting fed for the last couple months. I'm pretty comfortable. I'm not sure if I want to go back out there. And, you know, we got to give them a little nudge, and eventually they all go flopping back out there, and they know that's where they belong.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you were talking about how with the pandemic and the rise of PPE, you've seen an increase in just a lot of that on the beach. And Scientific American wrote an article about that recently and said the same thing, that the pandemic, despite everyone thought that it helped out the climate, it actually worsened ocean pollution. So have you seen an influx in patients due to this in your work, and how has the pandemic affected the center as a whole?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I haven't noticed any uptick in cases, and I think it's actually something that's probably going to take a while longer to compound. You know, it's like all of the trash needs to get into the ocean and then get ingested, and we might not see the animals coming in, you know, for quite some time until it starts growing, you know, becoming an increasing growing problem in their stomach. We have yet to have a patient that, you know, for example, came in with a mask wrapped around its neck or something like that. The day that I see that, I will honestly probably cry, because it's a devastating problem that we're living through with the pandemic. And then the idea that it's going to have a secondary effect on our animals is just really hard to stomach. It was sort of a bit of a silver lining that we had this great pause and reset where it seemed like actually animals were doing very well in their natural environment. There wasn't as much boat traffic. We actually had kind of a slow season this year compared to the normal number of animals that we would take in. And I'm not a scientist, and I haven't done any research to where I could, you know, confidently say that that's because of the pandemic. But, you know, it is an interesting coincidence. And I think we're seeing, you know, images of dolphins in the Venice Canal, or in Venice, you know, swimming, thinking, oh, hey, the animals are just loving this time, even if we're not. But I like that idea better than the idea that the pandemic is going to have a disastrous impact on animals. So I really hope that doesn't end up being the case, and that people can make a shift toward reusable items instead of just, you know, disposable stuff, because it's going to compound the issue. As far as how the pandemic has affected us at the center, I mean, we've been closed since March. We decided to be as cautious as possible starting out very quickly because we are a 365, 24/7 facility. There is nowhere in LA County that's like us that can do the work that we do. And if we're not able to run our facility, then these animals are just dying on the beach. So we had to make a difficult decision to not allow our volunteers to come in anymore. We've been operating since March, just only on with our staff, which is an incredible burden because we have over 150 volunteers that normally would be here helping us, taking care of these animals, and now all that work is falling on our staff. But what we did by that was, you know, really isolated, almost like a family unit that we have here, to just keep everyone safe, and we can very easily contact trace and know who's coming into contact with who, and just keep it as safe as possible so that we can continue our operations. We have been doing a couple limited social distancing events. We did one for Halloween that was a big success. We're doing one again on December 5th. For the holidays, we're going to have basically an outdoor holiday boutique. So I'm trying to get as creative as I can, work within the pandemic, stay super safe. We're allowing people to sign up for time slots so we can social distance that. And, you know, we did marks on the sidewalk to keep people 6 feet away from each other, and doing things outdoors obviously makes a big difference. But yeah, it's a wild time. Oh, this patient's coming up to say hi. It's a wild time, and, you know, we're all just trying to do the best we can. I think, like many small businesses that are being detrimentally impacted right now, nonprofits are hurting really bad too. So, you know, whatever people can do to continue to support their local nonprofits that they care so much about doing this great ocean conservation work, it's so absolutely critical right now, because it's one of those sort of trickle down situations where if people are tightening their belts because of the economy, then it trickles down to the nonprofit world, and definitely hits us hard.
So you said you were doing some socially distanced, very limited events. We have a teacher, a third grade teacher here, that wants to know if you guys do any Zoom tours, virtual or, you know, socially distanced tours for students to have them kind of become aware of the problems that, you know, pollution's creating and littering's creating.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I really appreciate that question, and thank you for joining us. We definitely do that. We have a Zoom tour of the facility that's basically already recorded, and then a docent would basically host you on Zoom and can be there for a live Q&A component. It would be really hard to do a Zoom because we are an active hospital with patients every single time we have someone that's wanting to come. But this is kind of like a hybrid way that we figured out. That way your students can ask questions that are specific to, you know, what they're interested in, and get that kind of feedback from a live docent, but then also watch our tour. And we do as well do live stream events regularly. With the December 5th event, we will be live streaming there too as well, and you can ask any questions you want, and the students can get a behind the scenes view of that as well. And we're also happy to prepare a presentation that is something that would be on topic for your students. So if they're interested in ocean pollution or entanglement or other types of injuries that affect our patients, or other ocean conservation topics, we're happy to try to accommodate those needs. And a big part of the work we do here at the Marine Mammal Care Center is education and spreading awareness about ocean conservation. And we really miss having our field trips. We used to have so many students here every single day that were learning about our animals and getting to see them. And that's honestly just, you can't replicate what it feels like to actually be here with these animals and see them, you know, in our facilities. So we like to try to recreate that experience virtually as much as we possibly can for all these students that are struggling right now, trying to learn from home.
Awesome. So kind of related to that, we've had a couple questions, and I know it seems so far away, but post-pandemic, what are volunteer opportunities? How do you get involved in something like that, from, you know, as small as middle schoolers to college graduates, like that kind of stuff? What do those opportunities look like?
Yeah, so what we don't, in terms of working with our animals, we don't take volunteers under 18 for liability reasons. But we just recently, when we did the Halloween event, we had a bunch of local Lion's Heart groups, boys and girls that came out. I believe they're elementary through middle school age, that came out and volunteered, helped us set up for the event, and did various artwork to decorate, and they were immensely helpful, and we honestly couldn't have put that event on without them. So that's a really cool way that people can get involved. Actually, is when we're doing these socially distanced events, it's something that even not post-pandemic, but right now that we need assistance and help with. We do also need people, when we do these outdoor gift shops, people to help sell items for us. So there is opportunity right now for people that want to volunteer and help out our organization in that way. In terms of animal care, again, it would start when you're over 18, and it will depend on what happens with the pandemic, and we can open up to new volunteers. But generally speaking, you know, we have a waiting list, and people get on it, and they get trained up, and it's an incredible experience to be able to work hands-on, you know, behind the scenes with these animals, and it will totally change your life. And you will forever be a marine mammal diehard after that experience. It's something that I recommend for anyone that's interested in a career in marine biology, wants to be a vet. And there are very few places where you can actually get that kind of experience behind the scenes working with animals. So I think it's something really special that we do, and we are missing our volunteers dearly and looking forward to a time when we can welcome them back.
Awesome. So running out of time, but one last question. Let's end on a positive note. What if you had to, you know, in 10 years from now, where do you want to see the ocean in terms of health, the marine mammals in terms of health, and how can we help the viewers here? How can we help make that a reality?
Yeah, well, I mean, that is a really challenging question. My dreams and visions are that we basically start rapidly moving backwards in time. So we clean up our oceans. We have, you know, partner with 5 Gyres, which is an amazing organization that I think AltaSea has a partnership with as well, that are really studying ocean trash and how we can really actually deal with this problem. Organizations like 4Oceans who are out there, you know, picking up millions of pounds of trash out of our oceans. We need a big cleanup system to get the oceans clean, and then we need some serious regulations at the top to eliminate these plastics so they're not getting into our oceans, and we can kind of stop the problem, again, stop the influx, and then, you know, we can deal with what's out there right now, because it is already very substantial. Like I said earlier, in terms of being an activist, I think the best things that you guys can do are sort of on an individual level. You want to do the refuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle program. You want to sustainably source all of your products, and you want to get involved. You know, get involved in local beach cleanups, whether that's with Marine Mammal Care Center or Heal the Bay, or Pluck Plastic does some really cool ones on paddle boards where they go out, paddle out plastic. They go out in kayaks, so it can be kind of a fun adventure, and it's a way for you to make a difference. And it may seem like, oh, picking up trash from a beach one day isn't going to solve this hugely immense problem, but we're an example of how it does. You go down to White Point, you pick up some glass, you pick up some PPE that's been discarded there, and you create a clear runway for our patients to go back out into their ocean home safely. So that does make a difference right there, that one day of beach cleanup. And so that's why we keep doing it. And again, invite your friends and educate other people. And the more that we have sort of this community mentality around these types of ideals, and we have these visions and dreams, and we are all aligned and on the same page, the more possibility I see for change. It really just comes with taking a stand, and we need to say no more to single-use plastics, and we need to force regulations. And then I think we really do stand a chance, honestly. I think we're at that precipice right now where we can either pretend it's not happening and keep doing what we're doing and not look at it. And I think it's going to become a catastrophic problem that is no longer solvable. and we will just have to deal from the fallout from that, and our grandkids will be dealing with the fallout from that. But we're not there yet. If we open our eyes and we see what's happening and we look at those graphic pictures and we get uncomfortable, I really do think we still have the power to change and to make a difference, and to really be able to create that world that is going to be a balanced ecosystem for all animals and all humans and nature.
Awesome. Hopefully we can get there.
I hope so. We got to stay positive, right?
Correct. So where can people find your work? Your website? Yeah,
our website is www.marinemammalcare.org. And then our social media handles are @marinemammalcare. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook and give us a follow. Something I really do want to mention is that we often post in our stories different opportunities for activism. So if we're doing a beach cleanup, if we're calling our local assembly members and trying to get them to pass a bill, then this is the kind of thing that you can get involved in. You can make a difference. So you might not know where to start, but follow us on social media and that's your start. And Heal the Bay does the same thing, and we will tell you what to do and how you can help and how you can make a big difference.
Perfect. Well, go give them a follow. And thank you so much for joining us. This was a one-of-a-kind live chat, the first with a tour of a facility. So, and,
woo! Just trying to keep people entertained.
This is special guests from the marine mammals in the background. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So
we'll leave you with a quick little view of them if you want. We got 2 little stunning sea lions here. If that's not good enough inspiration for us to all change the world, I don't know what is.
You're right on. And as you mentioned, your partner, Five Gyres, we did have a live chat with them back early on. So you can find that at altac-project-blue.org. And while you're there, you can sign up for our Giving Tuesday webinar, which is going to be featuring LA City Council member Joe Biscayeno and philanthropist activist Melanie Lundquist. So Amber,
wonderful.
Again, yeah,
Melanie is a good friend of the Marine Mammal Care Center too,
and a really good friend of Altac, and we really appreciate her. So again, Amber, thank you so much, and thank you for everyone tuning in.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Have a good one.